Welcome to Connecting the Dots, a non-traditional legal program with your host and trusted advisor, Liz Myska, your guide through the web of life's dilemmas.
Welcome to another edition of Connecting the Dots. I'm your host, Liz Myska, and today I have the distinct pleasure of introducing Ed Moynihan, whose name that I can pronounce because many of my guests I cannot. Ed, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you, Liz. It's a pleasure being here. I look forward to the next 20 minutes or so, 25 minutes.
I just want to give the audience a little background. You were I selected you as one of the dignitaries to be blindfolded for the 2021 White Cane Day. I didn't know you. Now I feel I know you after conversing before we started taping. And you, like me, have Irish heritage. My maternal line grew up off of Lincoln Street here, Irish, Irish English, Canadian English, and my paternal line grew up in Maine South. My dad grew up in Maine South, one step ahead of the landlord, as he used to say, which shocked me, but that's a different story. But also that Worcester connection, because I grew up in Holden, and you indicated that you, in essence, you grew up in Connecticut.
Yes.
But so we have commonalities, and again, I think as Irish, and I guess I'm third generation because my great grandfather came over from. Well, my father always said it was Cork. But that's where everyone disembarked from. Didn't live there. So I'm actually higher up, and it escapes me now. But anyway, so we have similar blood.
Well, and more than we knew is because my mother. I've talked about my paternal line, but my mother is from Nova Scotia, Canada. She is Canadian English and Irish. And she was from. We used to our parents met up there, and so there's even another connection in that. My mother is actually a Canadian citizen and was naturalized when she was about 10 or 11 when she came here.
Huh. Well, so this is going to be like one up.
It's Worcester.
Yes, you're right, exactly. My grandfather, my maternal grandfather, grew up in St. Stephen's, which is in New Brunswick.
Yep.
And you mentioned you went to Holy Cross, and we're a history major, and then also I have interest in political science. I went to the University of New Hampshire with history and political science, dual major. So we definitely have lots and lots of common history. But let me just because I want to talk about the course that you're teaching at Worcester State, but I also want to talk about, because I orchestrated you to participate in White Cane Day, not knowing anything about you other than that you're on the planning board. And so the other thing that I want to talk about is when I started losing my sight in 2008. Ultimately, I was invited to join the Commission on Disabilities, which is now known as the Accessibility Access Commission. I knew what a Commission on Disabilities was, but I never, it wasn't relevant to me because I wasn't that. I wasn't a disabled person. But then subsequently, I am that. So I don't know a lot about city government. Mm-hmm. I know a lot more now that I've served on the Commission on Disabilities. But talk to me about the planning board and and how, because I'm assuming it's all interwoven with your interest in what you do.
Yes. So the planning board is a 5-member board. There is one representative from each voting district, city council district in the city. I happen to live in Upper Burncoat Street area, so I'm District 1. And I've been on since August of 2019, so I'm entering, to 2022, I'm going into my third year. What we do is we sit down and we get a presentation from the staff that is the planning staff for the city of Worcester, and also from the the folks that want to do the development, the developers and folks like that, and then they talk about the project, and then we have to vote whether we want this to go through or to not go through. And so we take a look at it. There's like 20 or 25 different criteria depending on the project that we have to look at when we decide, what we want this project to look like. And we also have the ability at that time to make suggestions. And it's gratifying to see when you make a suggestion, the developer taking a look at it, and then we work out whether this is something that they can do or that they can't do. And so there's kind of this the dialogue that goes on between we who represent the city's planning board, on the planning board that represent the city, and the developers that are doing projects in the city. So, a lot of the stuff that has gone on down in the Canal District and around Polar Park, that has gone through our board so we can take a look at it, make suggestions. Things about like the width of streets sometimes. These things come in for the planning board, and it's all volunteer. We aren't compensated for anything. We have to apply through the city's, we make an application through this Community Advisory Commission. They interview us. Then we get a second interview with the staff that is in charge of what our area is, and then we are appointed by the city manager and the city council. We have to take our ethics tests. We have exams that we have to take periodically for ethics to make sure that we're on the right side of the ethics questions, and that we're knowledgeable of ethical considerations. Because all of us, because it's volunteer, we all have jobs elsewhere, which means we come into contact with people who may come before the board. So we have to know what we're allowed to do and what we're not allowed. We meet every third week or so twice a week, 1 month, once a week, another month. Our next meeting that we have coming up is December 22nd. And it's been gratifying to sit on here and take a look at the projects that they come through. And, we take a look at everything from parking spaces to, what kind of, the exterior of the buildings, to the type of foliage and plantings that we have. So there's a lot of things that go into it. You don't necessarily have to have a background in planning or anything like that. You kind of learn on the job, but it's something which is I think it's important for the city to plan to take a look at where they're going. It's a roadmap, and then we have to try and make sure that that map fits. One of the exciting things that we're going to be the planning board is going to be with is when we have. I'm not sure if they're calling it the master plan or not, but yes. There is a plan coming up. It's going to be a citywide development plan. We haven't had one since the 1980s. Was the last
years,
time. Yeah, and I've seen a copy of it. It's typewritten, on an actual typewriter. It's not computer generated.
Gee, I remember those.
So yeah, so do I. And so we really need something which brings us forward into the 21st century. And so this is an exciting time to be a part of the planning board. So I've enjoyed my time in there quite a bit, and it's a 5-year appointment. So I'm on there for another 3 years, and then I can be reappointed, I think, one more time at the discretion of the city manager and the city council.
And so, why were you interested? Did you know about it, or?
Well, yeah, I prior to my volunteering for the planning board, I volunteered for another board in the city, the Community Development Advisory Committee, CDAC, which meets to advise the city manager on how to spend community development block grant funds, which is to work to bring services and economic development into areas of the city which are considered low to moderate income areas. So we take a look at census tracts, and you take a look at what the average income is, and it's based upon poverty levels for the city, and those areas will be eligible for community development block grant funds. And I served on that committee for 6 years. I was chair for 6 years, and it's just part of my own personal. I believe that we need to give back to the city, and there's a real need for volunteers in the city. So I would make this pitch for anyone listening that we have needs. We have a need for people to volunteer on committees. We have vacancies in committees. We have a vacancy on my planning committee. I believe it's District 3. It's either District 3 or District 4. So if you live in those, if your counselor is either Mr. Russell or I think our Councilor Rivera, and you live in that area, we need a 5th member on our planning board. And so I just, volunteered because I believe in the importance of volunteering to help your community. And so the planning board opened up as I was coming to the end of my 6 years in Community Development Advisory Committee. And when I ran for city council in 2017, I'm sorry, and I lost. But one of the issues I ran on was doing a new master plan, getting the city to take a look at the city as a whole. Instead of trying to make decisions piecemeal, we need to be able to try and make decisions based upon some type of roadmap, and I think that we need that. And it's also important for me that it comes from the bottom up. We really need to talk to people that are affected by the city and affected by these decisions that we make. And so, I put my application in, and that fit, and so that's where I came up. That's how I ended up on the planning board.
Well, this is it sounds to me like a really good segue with White Cane Day, because everything that you've mentioned really resonates with me. Like I said, until I was a member, until I was a person with a disability, I thought I was empathetic. I thought I paid attention to the issues of others, but it wasn't pertinent. It wasn't necessarily pertinent to me. And I, as a lawyer, again, I come into contact with lots and lots of people. But again, until it was applied to me, I really wasn't paying attention. Then when I got on the Commission on Disabilities, I was rubbing elbows with people on wheels and people with cognitive challenges and people who had sensory deficits like I did. And again, hearing their stories and having them say to me, people decide for us rather than ask us. Or they ask us and we really don't know what it is that we need because we've been homebound. We've been shoved aside or shoved away. So that led to me saying, after having some personal experiences on being on the sidewalk with my white cane and having clutter on the sidewalk, which is my roadway, I want people to experience what this is like. Not from a like I'm going to make you walk the plank, or not from a complaint standpoint, but understand that I want to be a participant in this community as well. So that was the catapult. And because I had a launching pad through the Commission on Disabilities, it ultimately led to the White Cane Day for the dignitaries, but also in general, and I'm always looking for volunteers too, walking initiatives, because walkability is so important for everybody in the community, and people have a variety of reasons why they don't walk. It may not be safe in their neighborhood. The sidewalks may be in disrepair. There may be trees, that quote unquote are blocking access or whatever. So I think until you put aside your Monday morning quarterbacking and say, oh, well, that'll never work because they didn't do this, or there's no money for this. And then you get involved, you roll up your sleeves and you get involved. Then you realize, oh, well, we can make a difference. we can do something here. So that's the White Cane Day is my effort, my joint effort with others to bring exposure to something that most people are unconscious of because they're in their cars and they're driving by and they're looking and they're like, oh, they just redid the sidewalk here. Isn't that that nice? But they're not out on the sidewalks realizing there's concrete barriers and there's signage for someone like me that I can't see. So now I'm forced into a street, or I'm and I'm concluding I'm not welcome here. Regardless of what people are saying, I'm not welcome here because I can't traverse. Right. So I will silence myself. No, did any of those things
Absolutely. It was the most terrifying hour of my life. Other than when I was getting ready for my first child to be born, I was terrified to become a father. When I found out I was going to be a father, that was the most terrifying I thought I'd ever be in my life. But
this ranks right up there.
Oh, it ranks right up there with being absolutely, completely terrified. And it was. I had known about the White Cane Day. The former city councilor, Tony Economou, had participated in one of these earlier. And he had mentioned to me when I was running to his seat, he had vacated seat. And he had told me about this. And so I kind of knew about, the White Cane Day. And I was like, oh, I wonder how you get. And then when I got the invitation, I was like, oh, yes, it took me a nanosecond to decide, yes, this is something I want to do. And then when I decided to do it, and then when it was a beautiful day down at Polar Park, and I put this mask on, and I'm like, oh no, I was like, I'm like, okay, I'm not a coward. Right. God hates cowards. But I also don't want to test God either. And it was, and luckily, it's great. I mean, because you have a guided, you have a sighted guide, and they work through, but you truly don't think of things until you actually can experience it. And I think that's a human condition. I think we all try to empathize as much as possible, but until you're actually in there and living it, you don't understand. Like, I didn't realize how incredibly, I realized when I sat down afterwards, and I was like, how tense, all my muscles were tense. And I was like, I know that I can take this off, and I am back into a world that I am comfortable with. But those who can't take the blindfold off are in this world, and I don't know how they manage. I can't imagine, and yet it happens, right? You find a way to manage, because we are humans and we are adaptable, and we have to, in order for us to live, we make that adaptation. But it's upon the community as a whole to look at that and say, okay, so how can we make things better? And the little things, one of the things that you pointed out, and one of the things that we talk about on the planning board at one time was, we just have gone through COVID, and all these restaurants and businesses that are they need to have business. They're trying to get people in. So one of these things is al fresco dining, right? Dining outside. And I've been to Montreal, I've been to Dublin, I've been to Killarney, and we don't even think about, oh, isn't this great? We're sitting outside and we're having a Guinness, and God, it's beautiful, and I'm having a great. But I don't think about it from the other perspective, which is we have just put in, these businesses have put in basically a brand new obstacle course that people can't see. And even things like the sandwich boards to say, hey, we're open, come inside. My office is right at 390 Main Street, and I go to Spoodle's Deli, and they've got this sandwich board out there. I see this now in a different light. We have just put in the city of Worcester on Main Street a couple of things. There's a podium outside of Mechanics Hall that talks about the women's, Seneca Falls, the women's right movement. And so where this broad sidewalk, which is one of the best sidewalks in this downtown, which is right outside Mechanics Hall because it's ginormous, we now have put in, and I'm like, what happens if I have, and again, because of the White Cane Day, I'm like, oh man, have we thought about this? Now, we didn't have anything to do with this. This is something that the city is doing to try and, as part of this whole, of the whole scalability. Exactly. Is to remake the city to become, because if you want to have walkable cities, if you want to have scalable cities, you have to also provide stimulation, mental stimulation. You have to provide, oh, this is interesting. You walk by, it gets people to slow down, here's something, and it adds knowledge. And when you have that knowledge, it creates a sense of but what it's done for me is I'm looking at this and like, oh, all of a sudden, one day you're fine, and next day, all of a sudden you've got this. And, for me on the planning board, it's to think about this. We had an issue, we had a meeting on December 1st, and there's a new, down behind Holy Cross, that's the Arboretum Village. They're putting in a new road because they're putting in they're putting in buildings. And one of the questions I asked was, where you have the curb cuts to get into the street, are the yellow plastic domes. Are they there?
Right.
I want to make sure that they're there. And they said, yes, they're there as part of the code. And I said, okay, good. I would not have asked that 2 months ago. I would not have asked that. So, these issues now that I'm made aware of, now that I, as a planning board, have to talk about, is because we talk about community. And this is what we're really talking about, right? We're really talking about accessibility. We want to make this city of Worcester so that everyone possible has an opportunity to be a part of it. And when you don't have access to certain areas, one of the other issues that I look at, and that is, I look at some sidewalks and says, that's a GD stupid place for a utility pole. Because if if it's there and you know about it, okay, I know I hit it, but it's right in the middle of the sidewalk, and there's no room for someone who is mobily impaired.
Right.
If they have some type of a wheelchair or a mobility device, there's not enough room. They've got to either go around it by going out into the street, or that has just become, we have just told you, you're not welcome in this part of the street.
Right.
And it's important that we make the city welcoming to everyone. And we don't, again, until I experience the terror of being at Kelly Square, and they say, oh, we're in Kelly Square now. I said, I don't like coming here in my car.
I know, really.
And now you put me on 2 feet and all I've got is a cane. And I took fencing at Holy Cross for like a semester, but I don't think I have enough chutzpah to, go one-on-one with a Mack truck. And so this is the type of things, this awareness that the White Cane Day has done, and has made me, I hope, a better member of the planning board, is that I look at now with things with a different perspective. And it's so important. One of the things, I ran for Tony Economou's seat, District 1, in 2017. One of the issues I ran on was allowing people more time to cross intersections. We can have intersection lights. So, and we can have them geared, again, for traffic control, right? The lights are geared for a certain, that they have a certain synchronicity, and they're synced up. So, okay, you have 2 minutes to go, to cross on a car, and then when you hit the button, and you see, okay, you can cross. So first of all, being able to hear to cross, and again, I'm looking at all the. I travel around the city all day. I'm thinking, there's no sound there. That person can't get across this. I said, we need to take care of that. And I'm thinking about this. And it says, so if I'm on the planning board, if that comes before me, this will be an issue. But we have the ability. The technology is out there, so that if you have a pass and you need more time to get across the street, because it's all set at the same time. Like you have 15, the average person can walk X amount of miles per hour. It is so many feet across. We'll start buzzing you when you're halfway through. You get the warning, the flashing, or the beeping, whether it goes faster or slower. You better get across because you lost half your time. Well, some people need more time to get across a street. Well, if you have a pass, it will activate so you get more time to cross the street. I mean, we have that ability. It's just a matter of political will and money and priorities, and that's really all it is. And so I ran on that. It was one of the things I put forward besides having a master plan. Was one of those things I put forward as far as accessibility and access to cities. And I think that's important. Again, the whole idea is that we are as inclusive as possible. And without knowing, these certain things that will happen, that people run into in their everyday lives, if we are ignorant of it, shame on us. But if we remain ignorant or ignore it, then double shame on us. Well, so, this is one of those things that, again, that White Cane Day was so insightful. And I thought I knew. I know what this. I know because VIPs, they have the issue and everything. But then all of a sudden it was there right for you. So thank you for terrifying the hell out of me.
You're telling me you're not telling me anything that I don't know. And what I say to people when I'm training volunteers is, you don't know what you don't know. So don't be, don't be ashamed that you don't know. Yeah. But the travesty, and you just said this, the travesty is if you've been exposed to it and then you don't use it in some way. Yeah. And that's my mission. That's my crusade. Yeah. That involving more people, because I'm more than happy to be in the forefront, but I'm not always going to be in the forefront. And I want company to jump on the bandwagon and have everybody be part of it. And that's another thing about White Cane Day, that you mentioned everybody who was being blindfolded, the dignitaries, had a seasoned sighted guide. So these were guides that themselves had been blindfolded, so had experienced, quote unquote, the terror as well. But again, they weren't going to let you get hurt. They weren't going to lead you astray. Yeah. But as you're saying, what happens to people who are novices and they think, all right, well, I don't want to be, I don't want to be a coward. I need to go out there. And then they have a bad experience. Maybe they don't have an accident per se, but they're terrified, and they're thinking, the message that I'm getting is, you don't want me here. Yeah. You're telling me that, we've created this for you. We have this program for you. Everybody welcome. It's free. Come in, and you can't get in. Yep. You can't get in. So the message is other than what the slogan portrays. We are unfortunately running out of time.
Well, the one thing I would like, before we go, I'm a member of the planning board. I would love to see this, the other members of the planning board, because I think it's so important, because it's one thing to be told about it. It's another thing to experience. So I know that there are, we have 2 new planning board members on, and I'd love to see them participate in it. And hopefully they would take advantage of it. And definitely talk to them and say, look, you got to do this.
Yes,
because it's going to make you a better planning board member, and that will make this city a better city.
Well, final word on that. Councilman Matt Wally, who unfortunately did not win election, he asked to be blindfolded back in October. So we took him on a private tour, and he said all municipal employees should experience this, because it's going to make people better aware, and that way they can spread the word amongst the city and amongst the citizens and the visitors. Everyone is going to be very, very appreciative of this. And this will make Worcester stand out. And, coming full circle, Worcester is your home, your home and my home.
It's our home.
We had our starts here, and let's be the first.
Yeah.
There are so many Worcester firsts. Let's not look and see who else is doing this. Ooh, we can't do it. Let's us be number one in accessibility and inclusion.
Yeah, absolutely. Make a city to be proud of. And again, like I said, I'm raising the 6th generation of Worcesterites here, and I want them to be proud of the city as well. So.
Well, thank you so much, Ed.
Thank you. I appreciate it. This is fun. It went by like that.
I know. Join me for another edition of Connecting the Dots.
Please note that the information provided in this show is not a substitute for consulting with an experienced local attorney and receiving counsel based on the facts and circumstances of a particular transaction. To contact Lizbeth, email her at lisbeth@elizabethlmyska.com or call her office at 508-753-7681. We're online at connectingthedots.lawyer. Executive producers, Liz Myska and Jack Peacock. Producers, John Medberry and Bill Hamilton. A production of Elizabeth L. Myska, J.D., LLM, in association with Compliments.